Oh, direct from the farm. Um, what's that saying there? What's that saying that they've got in the Americans, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah,
I think the English version of that is one man's rubbish is another man's treasure, but I'm not sure.
one man's trash, one man's rubbish is another man's gold. Yeah, or
All
yeah,
right, there you are. Thank
things
you.
like that. Yeah.
So that's what seems to have happened in China. Um, some mining companies in the West aren't interested in mining for a particular mineral, whilst China seems to think the same mineral for them has a value so high as they claim it will be an energy source for the next 60,000 years. The Bayan Obo mining complex found in Mongolia enough thorium they think will supply China energy for all intents and purposes forever. Thorium is a slightly radioactive and controlled in a certain way, could be used in making small nuclear power stations, if you like, which supply low amounts of energy, not enough for the national grid, but enough to make energy on a domestic basis. So each house could have one. So, uh, so each household group or group of houses could have their own private power station. These power stations could be made cheaply and quickly to supply residents in towns and cities. So thorium, which in general is considered waste by mining companies, would have its day in the sun. Right? The miners believe that 5 years mining, these are the Chinese ones. The
Yeah.
Chinese miners believe that 5 years mining in the iron ore sites in Mongolia could supply enough thorium to solve the energy problems in the US for 1,000 years. The process of turning thorium into energy seems pretty simple if you're a scientist. But this non-scientist, his interest is just to turn on the lights when needed. I'm just an end user.
Well, yeah.
I don't need to know how it works, but they seem to know. Last year, China began making the first power station of this sort in the Gobi Desert. They expect a power supply of 10 megawatts of electricity, and the plant will be completed in 2029. Now, I don't know how many 10 megawatts is. I don't know if it's a lot, if they're doing it on a small scale, if it's enough for a house, if it's, I just don't know. Apparently, researchers from all over the world have been looking at the use of thorium as a primary energy source for many years. Right, the US has been looking into this also. I was
Uh,
talking to a mutual uh,
Acquaintance. Yeah.
person that we both know,
Yeah.
and he said that his contacts throw the thorium away, and they won't go after the principal um, mineral because there's so much thorium there. Thorium, I imagine, if it's considered waste, it's got very low value. But I think that if this thing that China is working on works out, of course, the value of thorium, just consider it a very low radioactive material,
Mm.
right? And if this thorium works out, then of course the cost of thorium is going to skyrocket, because it's going to solve everybody's energy needs forever and ever. And so that's of course if the governments allow it, and the
That's different.
great energy companies allow it.
Mm.
However, then it is what it is.
Mm.
Um, and could very well be that some mining companies are sitting on a bedrock of absolute treasure,
Mm.
but are just not realizing it yet.
Well, okay. Well, that's progress in technology. Um, Somebody will find something's by accident, whether or not it's true or not. I mean, it's not an unknown item, and
I said it's
uh,
considered as waste.
well, it probably is. I mean, it's like anything else. It could be a good idea,
An
potentially anything,
element.
and it's an
Thorium
element.
is on an element. You can
Yeah,
find it on the scale on that
yeah,
table.
yeah. yeah, one I've been sticking around. Yeah, can I lick this? Can I lick this element? There's a joke going around at the moment. Best not. Um, it's a um, I mean, yeah, anything radioactive and anything else, yeah, is treated with a bit of suspicion at the moment. Um, I can imagine. I mean, the Chinese are no mugs. Technologically, they are quite advanced. Yeah. Now, if they're out there claiming it, but it's one big thing to claim it, and we're doing research. It's another thing if, yeah, the was it the proof is in the eating. If they can prove it's good, then you're saying it will become valuable. Well, it appears there's quite a lot of it about. That's if you only need a few milligrams almost to power your domestic things for 1,000 years. I mean, again, I'm speaking about knowing the full technicalities of it all. Yeah, I mean, I was meant, yeah, like I said, I was meant to research it and I forgot, but it is a, yeah, it's an idea. Everything should be thought about and considered, especially now that we we don't want so much fossil fuels. We don't want to use reliance on fossil fuels. Is the thinking in the West at the moment and in China as well. Actually, I mean, um, we want clean energy. Is it clean energy? Um, it's like a few weeks ago, everyone was jumping on hydrogen. To use hydrogen as an energy source overall requires a lot of energy to get there, to use it. It's not viable. When our mutual friend says it's not viable, it might mean it's known about, it's waste. Um, but I think if it was on a winner, I think China would be holding a monopoly on it because the Chinese are great business people. Yeah. If they thought they really
Well,
were onto something,
yep,
yeah, onto
like
something.
like I said, the
Yeah.
rest of the world has been looking at it
Yeah.
from a distance, right?
And
And it's only China just recently that have decided to build a plant
hmm,
to make it work. If it works, we'll find out in 2029. And
well,
if it works, then China for sure will be energy self-sufficient,
no, yeah, which
and and everybody, the rest of the world, is going to be having to follow China
hmm, yeah, I
to
mean,
uh,
yeah,
to make their own, to make their own.
yeah, I mean, again, at the moment we're grasping at straws with this, you know. It I, I mean, there could be one of two things. Okay, the cynic in me was saying, well, they know about it already, but they're keeping it quiet because it would make a lot of it would lose a lot of people a lot of money very, very quickly if it was known about it. Now, if China have a turnaround and they can build a power plant in a few years, and then they're saying, well, we can build smaller ones very cheaply and rapidly. They're almost on a house level or the state level or a few house level. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Um, that will dent a few energy companies' profits. Yeah, and certainly. Um,
Well, basically all of them.
well, yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, you've got to look at this. I mean, it's still a radioactive thing. It's still going to need specialist technology to put it there. You can't suddenly. I mean, what you're going to have a tin can or a can at the bottom of your garden with this thing in with a few cables to your house, a couple of cables to your house. Um, well, you probably just one in effect, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. You probably have a couple. I don't know. And then there's the monitoring of these things, and if these things have a have an episode, an issue, could you take out? I mean, if they're as powerful as they say it is, you don't. As I've always been told in engineering, you don't get something for nothing. And to every good idea, there's an equal and opposite force, which is a bad idea. Yeah, and this is what's got to be looked at now. If you're sort of saying that the people are discarding it now, well, that means, yeah, they're sitting on a big supply of it. Um, Again, it's probably something like you say, if people have been looking about at it. I can't believe that across Europe, if they've been looking about it, the Germans would be possibly been looking at it if the Americans are, British engineers as well, or technical teams in the UK would have been looking at it because we probably got quite a bit of it. Um, And I know a bit more of the background of this, and it might be being played down a little bit as well for deliberate reasons as well by certain people. Um, Not being conspiratorial, but yes. Um, yeah, without knowing the full details, and it might be worth a follow-up podcast. Maybe next Tuesday I'll follow up with some more technical nous on it. Like you said, and try and make some sense of it. My gut feeling is be very, very careful with it. I'm not suggesting for a minute the Chinese are backward, but it's unproven technology. It could be they build the plant, they'll have a test facility, and
That's
they'll
what I'm
find
saying, Mark.
yeah, they'll find
They're building the plant and they're going to test it.
yeah,
That's what testing is,
yeah, I know the test
right?
facility. I came from an R and
And
D background.
you don't need to tell me that I've got to be careful with it because I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm
So,
saying.
you
Yeah,
know,
no, I'm talking overall a thought process of it. Yeah, new information, new data. What is it? Is it the answer to all our prayers, or is it
oh,
a
we'll find
dud?
out in 2020.
Yeah, but that's the idea. Like you said, they're going to build a test plant, a test facility, we call it. Yeah, they're going to see the long how if it is a viable, any issues that could be associated with it, what safety um technology you would have to build into it or precautions you'd have to build into it. What happens if it does go ping? What could be the effects of it? Um, and if you're then talking about having it in people's back gardens or down the end of a street, yeah, what could be the implications or ramifications of doing that? Yeah. Um, there's so much to look at it. It's a feasibility study in effect.
Yep, yep, for sure.
And that's it at the moment. So yeah, I'm going to pour a bit of cool water on it. It's an interesting idea. I would find it I find it very interesting on two things: whether it's been looked at and discarded for good reason, or as you said, the cynical side of you could say people are sitting on it, which I find very, very difficult to believe. Because scientists aren't backward at suggesting things. It hasn't appeared in nature, for example, or any science things from as far as I
Well,
know.
you know, China is having to import an awful lot of
Mm,
fuel
mm,
to for its population, which is huge, immense.
yeah.
So for me, if China, even if they made enough power plants of this type,
Mm,
which are not major power plants,
yeah.
understand this,
Yeah.
this
Yeah. No.
thorium is very, very low,
Yeah.
has very, very low, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yield.
Radioactive quality
Yeah.
to it.
Yield. Low yield.
So
Yeah.
it's almost like if you want a power plant for a city,
Mm,
and you have to put the heat up to number 10.
yeah.
These power plants, I imagine, is going to be like number one, number two
Well, yeah. I mean,
for smaller areas.
yeah.
Which also means if they spring a leak, for example,
Yeah. That's
a
what I'm saying.
radioactive leak, as the radioactivity is very low,
Mm,
and this is layman talking. I'm not a
yeah. No.
scientist.
Again. Yeah.
Um, if as the content is very low, it's not going to create the same thing as if Chernobyl went up again,
Yeah.
or you
Radioactive
know,
dust cloud. Radioactive cloud. Yeah.
right?
Um.
So you know, so
Yeah. Ideally, you don't want that scenario with anything like that. Yeah. I mean, I find it interesting. I mean, yeah, with all this, you've got to build the cooling in and around it. You've got to, you say low yield, but yeah, I mean, basically, it's boiling a kettle. These things they generate heat, which brings up steam or water, which yeah turns a turbine, which out it comes. Yeah, induces a current up and down some cables. Yeah, hey, happy days. That's a power station. So how you do the turbine? Um, it almost sounds too good to be true, which immediately will put my engineering suspicions on full alert. Yeah, hey, this sounds too good. What's going on here? If we've got a ready supply across Europe, then yeah, um, yeah. I
well,
mean,
you know,
it's like you
you
say,
know,
is it?
we can only go back. China didn't said it's a done and dusted thing. It
Yeah.
just said that it has enough of this thorium
Mm.
in its land to have energy forever,
Mm.
and that it's going to build this power station in the Gobi Desert. It's going to be ready in 2029. Let's see what happens
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
if
we're
we're
with
both
you.
still here.